Back on February 8th, drove down to Appleton to the nursing home where my mother is staying. It was mid-afternoon and the sunlight was coming through the window, and despite her being slumped over and asleep, her 96-year-old body worn out and her mind clouded, the sunlight was coming across her face and her body in such a beautiful way. When I walked in, she didn't recognize me, so I just sat down and spent some time with her, rubbed her back, and she wasn't able to say much that made sense. But I told her as the visit was concluding, I said, "Mom, you know, if Jesus comes and taps you on the shoulder and calls you to go with him to heaven, it's okay to go ahead." And she looked up, and the only lucid thing she said that day, the last thing she said to me, "That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful." She died as the sun was coming up on Mardi Gras Tuesday, so she doesn't have to do Lent this year for the first time in 96 years. But for those of us who are here to do Lent of 2018, the church serves up today a beautiful gospel, the Transfiguration, a moment of clarity, not only for Peter and James and John, but for Jesus himself, so that they might be able to go forward in the mission that was theirs. And if we allow it, this moment can be a moment of clarity for us to go forward wherever we might be, mountaintop or valley of darkness, even the shadow of death. It was all clear on Tabor. Jesus' clothes shone with radiance. His body was transfigured. And then Moses and Elijah, it all connected. The dots connected with each other. Jesus fulfilled the law received by Moses in the covenant of Sinai. He embodied all the prophecies that Elijah, Isaiah, and Jeremiah had foretold. And if that wasn't enough, a cloud, and from the cloud a voice. "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." Peter knew it right away, how good it was for them to be there together. How much that moment of clarity would be needed for the future. Jesus had begun to talk about the cross, its scandal. The disciples had no sense of understanding. This moment would begin to sustain them and encourage them and empower them to keep walking. Peter's danger, though, was that he wanted to park there permanently. And the only time we can stop on the journey permanently is when we do get to heaven. Won't that be wonderful then, as my mom would say? Jesus understood from that mountaintop vantage point, helped the disciples to understand. Not only could they see the glory of the sky, feel the warmth of the sun, it all began to make sense and come together for them. But from that mountaintop vantage point, they could see down to Jerusalem, the valley of the shadow of death. They could see another mountaintop, a nubby little mountain called Golgotha, Calvary, or the place of the skull. They could not escape that part of the journey, but the clarity of Mount Tabor and the Transfiguration gave them what they needed to keep going forward. Our Lent isn't just about giving things up, not even just about cultivating virtue or setting aside vice. It's really a short course in our life's journey, heading forward to heaven. And along the way, God gives us all sorts of moments of clarity, moments of truth, how good it is to be here, how much it all makes sense. Maybe the company of a friend or a loved one, holding a child or a grandchild, or a spouse or a fragile parent. Maybe a simple meal, or the stars and the moon on a quiet night, or the sunrise on a misty morning over a northern Wisconsin lake. If we learn to read the signs, God gives us what we need to keep going forward, not just in moments of success and virtue and triumph, but even when we stumble, even when human limitations, darkness, and death confront us. And every Sunday, the church gives us another moment of transfiguration, transcendence, a mountaintop, 3 steps up to the altar in the Abbey Church, the Sunday liturgy, where the same word that Jesus spoke centuries ago inspires and forms us, where his body becomes our strength to live the gospel day in and day out, where his blood is mercy for those times when we fall short, and where his holy people, the church assembled, provide the amazing witness across generations of strength and weakness, of life and death, of joy and sorrow, always keeping faith. This Lenten Sunday, we are reminded of our final goal, that heavenly banquet prefigured in the Sunday Mass. We are encouraged to look for the signs, to stop and take those moments of clarity when it all seems to make sense, when it's so good for us to be here. And we are invited as well to make our way faithfully, even through the shadows and the darkness, the promise of an eternal Easter guaranteed. We are going, heaven knows where we are going. We'll know we're there, we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows when we will get there. We know we will.